Hi everyone, Jesse here, the Chicago Dog Whisperer, owner of Canine Perspective, and we're back with another video. This one's a little bit different. This one's more about just myself in terms of my approach to dog training and just my career. And one major thing about me is that I don't tell people to put their dogs down. The reason is, and I've come into some very, bad situations, is a lot of times when I actually show up, the owner has already been told to put the dog down by the veterinarian, other veterinarians, other dog owners, other dog trainers. I had one person, as many as 5, dog professionals, determined generally, told them to put the dog down. And actually the dog, it wasn't even that bad. The dog didn't need to be put down, and the dog made tremendous progress after doing training. It's just, they don't understand true dog behavior, and the methods that were being used just do not work for aggression. This is why I do e-collar. So that's a big factor, is if I come into the picture and someone's already told me, like, look, I've been told by 5 other people to put my dog down, I'm not putting my dog down. I just want someone to tell me what can be done, what's realistic, what do I have to do to keep my dog, and also, keep people safe. They just want answers, but also being able to just have a, as close to a normal life as possible. Because I get people that go out, if they have really reactive dogs, they go out at 2 o'clock in the morning and 5:30 in the morning to take their dogs out to go to the bathroom because, their dog's so reactive and they live in a building and they want to avoid the elevator. Or they take the stairs, and I had someone who used to go down 20-something flights of stairs to take their dog out to go potty because they didn't want to go in the elevator because it was such an anxiety-driven or experience for them multiple times a day to take their dog out. When I come into the picture, I'm like, all right, one, I don't think the dog needs to be put down. At least I've not come to a case like that quite yet, because there's always an answer or answers to things, and it's just a matter of what is the owner willing to accept and what is the owner willing to do. That's really what kind of dictates what can be done. If I'm dealing with a human aggressive dog, first thing is always muzzle. Muzzle condition the dog, because that removes a lot of liability. Very rare do we have dogs that actively seek people to do harm. So what that means is, when you're walking with your dog and someone walks by, they're actively looking to attack that person. They'll start scouting them. We see it a lot with dogs, dog reactivity. Many of you may have either seen or have either experienced. You take your dog out, they see another dog, and they're just zoned in, or they come out and they're already scouting. They're in alert state and they're looking. As soon as you step out the front door, they're already looking for a dog, right? Super, super rare that we would get a dog like that with humans, okay? Typically, human reactivity is an overstimulation issue or a nervous issue. So human reactivity on the spectrum, if you ever watched one of my consultations, it's a spectrum. Reactivity towards humans is actually the easiest type of reactivity to overcome. It's usually the first thing that goes away after the first class, done deal, unless the dog is spooked and a bike comes by really quickly or something like that. But for the most part, human reactivity goes away first. If there is human reactivity towards humans, it's usually because the person is on a skateboard or the person is on a scooter. There's another variable in play that's actually causing the reactivity, not the human themselves. When I come to the picture and I go, okay, I have to assess the level of aggression and all that stuff. That's why I have my bite suit, and I go, your dog is low level aggression, high level of fear, low level of fear, high level of aggression, somewhere in the middle, mixture of fear, nervous, anxiety, territorial behavior. There's all these factors that come into play. And I already know what to expect because I've been doing this for so long. If I have a nervous case, an anxious case, a fearful case, a territorial case, a resource guarder, I already know all the different contexts that this person may potentially come across in their life with their dog. I come in, I go, okay, I'm not going to tell you to put your dog down. That's not what I do. But I see your dog's issue, and if the dog is legitimately aggressive or it's a severe case, whatever, I'll tell them. First thing is muzzle condition this dog. That removes so much anxiety, so much liability. The next thing, of course, is e-collar training. We need to have control. And then the next thing is behavioral work. Actually correcting and stopping the aggression and teach the dog that is not a valid outlet for whatever stress that it is that they're feeling. So it's a blend of all these things. I'll tell the owner, at minimum, what I would expect, for you to be able to keep your dog and prevent harm from being done to anybody is, if the dog is severely human aggressive, whether it's a territorial behavior or what have you, anytime the dog's around people, the dog will be muzzled. That's just primary rule. And whether or not the owner accepts that is a totally different thing, but it's, dogs gonna be muzzled. We have control, so we can prevent things from happening. Because when we do behavior and we do obedience, they're two different approaches. They're two very different approaches. One is preventative control, whereas the other is actively working on the dog's psyche to get them to, not see humans as threatening or not want to attack them because they know there's negative consequences for that. So we have both. I've gone into homes where dogs have bitten, the dad or a parent or a friend, and the friend's like, I'm never coming over to this house because unless that dog's put away, because I don't want to get bit again. Makes complete sense, right? So then I come in, I'm like, well, if you want to have this, be able to work with your dog and have this person come over and stuff, the first thing they need to see is control. The first thing they need to see is, oh yeah, you told your dog to lay down, your dog hasn't moved for 2.5 hours. Once someone who's been bitten or someone who's aware of your dog's behavior sees the level of control you have, it allows them to relax. But at the same time, I'm like, look, my dog's in a down, they're not gonna come anywhere near you. And I'm gonna tell the guests, give the dog a 6 to 8 foot buffer, okay? If you want to be really safe. So the dog's like, okay, you don't mess with me, I don't mess with you, we're good, my job is to do this, I don't gotta worry about anything, cool. So that's preventative control, okay? The dog's not gonna move, and then we tell our guests, respect my dog's space, plus the dog's muzzled should something happen. The next thing would be, for doing behavioral work, it's teaching the dog to coexist without any commands, no sit down, stay, come, place, heel, none of that stuff. The dog is free to make decisions and able to walk around, go up to the person, sniff them, ask for affection, whatever it is. And that's actually what's working on the dog's psyche. If I tell an owner, look, worst case scenario, whenever your dog is going to be around humans, they're going to be completely under control, they're going to be muzzled up, and blah, 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 blah. And the owner goes, no, I'm not going to muzzle train my dog. Then I go, well, I'm not going to work with your dog because that is too much of liability, but I'm not going to tell you what to do with your dog because obviously you're not going to because you've already seen 5 trainers, and that's not my thing. My thing is to tell you, at minimum, this is what you may need to do in order to keep your dog for the rest of their life and keep people safe and not worry about liability. Best case scenario is that, look, I want your dog to be social with people, and realistically speaking, the people that come into the home, friends, family, a lot of my clients had an aggressive dog, and down the line they had a baby and they're worried about the baby. I'm like, don't worry about it, don't rush it in the beginning. It takes time. I usually wait 1 year to 2 years before a dog interacts with a baby or child, because it allows the dog to just accept, oh, you're just like another being within the home. It takes time, whereas people tend to rush and do the whole Instagram, have my baby napping on my dog, which is completely unsafe and I don't recommend. Because I'm all trying to prevent things from happening. I don't tell people to put their dogs down because, I give them the minimum and maximum expectation, okay? And regardless of what the issue is. If I get a dog that has separation anxiety, really bad separation anxiety, and which is difficult to correct because it's usually relationship based. The person has either coddled the dog too much or spent too much time with the dog, currently now with quarantine, lots of dogs are getting separation anxiety. And I'll tell them, look, the goal is that you can leave your dog and they're not barking, they're not tearing up things, they just chill, they relax, and they wait for you to come home. That is the maximum that we can expect, right? And in some cases, and this is with no tools, there's no training collar on the dog. When the owner is absent, we are using e-collar to discipline and get structure in the brain, but it's not present when the owner leaves, okay? That's ideal. That's the complete 180 turnaround. But in some cases where the anxiety, a separation anxiety is too severe and the dog does great, but will bark, if left unattended, then we do the bark collar, and the presence of the bark collar just keeps the dog calm. And some people struggle with that. They're like, well, I don't want to leave a collar on my dog, for 8 hours when I'm at work. I'm like, yeah, but how are you going to correct the behavior if you're gone? Like you're completely out of the element. There's no means for you to correct your dog unless you happen to like work next door and your e-collar, which is the same thing, except now you're pressing the button yourself. And in my experience, fluoxetine, triazidone, doggy Prozac, whatever, doesn't work for these things. It's interesting because people would much rather drug up their dog, even though the drugs don't work, than use a bark collar. It's like the exact same thing, okay? Except the bark collar will actually keep the dog calm. And we had a case recently here that was so severe in terms of separation anxiety, and just kennel anxiety in itself, is that if you put him in there without anything on, right off the bat, he'd start with chewing at the kennel gate and like biting at the bars and howling and stuff. But as soon as you put the e-collar, the bark collar on him, he'd go in, turn around, lay down, make a little donut, go to sleep. You know, so, and when he got adopted out, because he was a rescue that we worked with, told him the same thing. This dog is going to need, you know, a bark collar when you're gone, because he has really bad kennel anxiety, to the point where like he's howling and it sounds like he's dying because it sounds so terrible. If the owner goes, nope, I don't want to do a bark collar, and I'm not willing to continue e-collar training even after the training is done, then I really can't help you, because those are realistically speaking the answers that you have. There are always answers, and granted there are a lot of variables. How well is the owner taking to the training? How well is the dog taking to training? Is the owner following up and being 100% black and white, which is super rare? Did they get the appropriate e-collar for the dog? Are they practicing e-collar, regularly? Are they making sure that they're consistent with correcting things? The severity of the behavior itself, the confidence level of the handler. Do they baby the dog? Do they cuddle the dog? There's a lot of variables in play. So that's why I got to cover these things. But me personally have not needed to put a dog down, have not told anyone to put a dog down. In my career, I have had dogs be put down no more than a handful over the course of 10 years. And that's really me kind of overestimating. I honestly think it's only been 2 to 3, maybe 5. But this was without my knowing. And I had already come in at a point where the things were like too far gone, or things were too severe, and the owners just decided like they couldn't do it. And they opted to put the dog down. But this is without me knowing, because I just say, do what you think is best. I can only tell you this is what I can do to help and what can be done realistically speaking, and then the owner makes their decision based off of that. So I'm Jesse, the Chicago Dog Whisperer, and thank you for watching.